The story is told, though who can say if it be true, of a clan of medieval warriors awoken in modern-day Manhattan, of the animated series that told their story.
It is an age of darkness. Superstition and the sword rule. It is an age of fear. It is the age of gargoyles.
Welcome to Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast.
This is Nightwatch, reporting from New York.
Travis Marshall. Tonight, more on the news that has rocked Manhattan, if not the world.
Welcome back, Gargoyles fans. From our holiday hiatus, we are back to another episode of Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast, beginning our 2024 year, the 30th anniversary. I'm your co-host, Greg Bashansky, and joining me as usual is my co-host and partner in crime, Jennifer L. Anderson.
Hello.
Jennifer, how was your holiday season?
I had an amazing holiday, and you all be jealous because it was fantastic.
Excellent.
I got to see most of my children.
Awesome.
And go to Disneyland.
Yay.
You were in town?
Yeah. Well, kind of, sort of, because I was kidnapped by my children and taken to Disneyland for several days. So.
Okay.
My daughter-in-law found out I had not been to Galaxy's Edge and said, that's going to stop right now.
Awesome. That's how you know the right people married into your family.
Ari's amazing. Best daughter-in-law ever.
All right. And he already introduced himself, but we'll introduce him anyway. Our returning guest, as usual, the co-creator of Gargoyles, the supervising producer of the first two seasons, and the writer of the comic books, Mr. Greg Weisman.
Hi, everyone.
And we're pleased to reintroduce to the show the artist of SLG's Gargoyles issue 5 and most of the Gargoyles Bad Guy spinoff, which we're going to be talking about a little bit, Karine Charlebois.
Hi, everyone.
And we're very happy to introduce to the show for the very first time. He colored the last 6 issues of the SLG Gargoyles series, including 4 that never actually saw print outside of a trade that has become unavailable for a long time. We're going to be talking about that in a bit too. Robby Bevard, a very accomplished comic book colorist.
Howdy, y'all.
Hello. So, Robby, introduce yourself to our audience. Some of them are meeting you for the very first time. Tell us about yourself, your background with this property.
I've been working in comics my entire life, basically, from high school on out. With Gargoyles, I saw the original preview on whatever movie it was attached to in late '93, and oh, acts like it'll be good. And so when it came to TV, I was there on day one. And I loved it immediately, and I've been following it ever since. I've always been into comic books. It was all I've always wanted to do. And out of high school, I got into a local comic publisher. And I have worked 80-hour days in comics every week since.
80-hour days. Those are some days. Those are some days.
80-hour days are a thing. And my name isn't Jennifer L. Anderson.
So back when the previous publisher SLG got a hold of the Gargoyles license, they announced it, I think, at Comic-Con, and they had an initial poster where they had done up the first cover, and just every issue would come out, and I'd go, I need to work on this book. I need to be on this. And I had contact with some people in the fandom who actually got me in contact with Greg for the next Comic-Con a year later. I went over to him and gave him my portfolio full of stuff, including some gargoyle things I'd colored up just to show I can do this. I know this material. And then that Comic-Con ended and I went home And a few months later, I got a message like, "Hey, you up for doing this?" Like, hell yeah! So I then got the art for issue 7 and went to town on it. I did the entire issue and sent it in, just fully complete the entire thing. And Greg went, "Oh, this is good." He was very happy with it. I made whatever changes he needed me to do at the time, and then we went on from there and proceeded to do the remainder of the series in very short order because the license had pretty much expired at that point.
The moral of the story here, kids, is persistence.
Yeah.
Pays off.
It does.
It's a gig I had to get. I tried really hard. I went through a lot of hoops to get there. So.
Well, we're happy you did.
To quote one of my favorite movies, "Never give up, never surrender."
I also helped tone 2 of the issues of Bad Guys, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I colored most of the later covers of that publisher, plus 1 or 2 things since then that never actually came to fruition. So, and outside of Gargoyles, I've just been keeping busy working in comics in some form or another every week of my life. I've been a writer, I've been an editor, I've been a colorist, I've been a letterer, I've done everything. I worked at every single publisher in the industry, pretty much. So, Marvel, DC, Fantagraphics, Zenescope, you name it, I've been there at least once on one character or another.
And for funsies, when I draw some Gargoyles art, Robby colors it, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I've done a few of her pieces up.
Yep.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And we mentioned the SLG Gargoyles. We mentioned Bad Guys. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But one of the reasons why we're here is to promote this little Kickstarter that is going on to bring the Marvel comic from the 90s, the SLG comics, Gargoyles and Gargoyles Bad Guys, back into print as trade paperbacks. At the time of this recording, we're recording on January 24th, 2024. There's 19 days left to go, and there is 1,725 backers, and they've raised $285,732.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah. It funded really fast. I was really impressed, but
yeah,
get on it.
Yes.
Well, the old copy's been out of print for the entire time they've been in print. So.
Yes.
If you were lucky enough to get them back then,
yeah,
because it wasn't easy then either.
No, it wasn't easy then, and ever since, I remember going online to see if I could find any extra books for people, and all I could find were things on eBay that were thousands and thousands of dollars. And then I went, I'm not seeing any of this money.
Not on eBay.
What I've always wondered, is anyone actually plucking that much change down for any of those?
No, I hope not.
I don't know. That top tier on that Kickstarter has me terrified.
Oh, that top tier.
Okay, so what we want to do here, just to be really clear, is we want to, the Kickstarter's funded, that's great, but we really want to keep driving those numbers up.
Yes.
And we want to drive the quantity of backers up. I mean, because one of the things that this Kickstarter will do is demonstrate the level of interest in Gargoyles as a whole. So the fact that it's funded, I'm not knocking that. That is fantastic. Yeah. But what we really want to do is demonstrate to the powers that be that there are a lot of Gargoyles fans out there and that they're willing to vote with their wallets, in essence. So I'm not talking about, I need all of you to buy the highest level thing. No. Buy whatever interests you on there. But the point is, get something because
if you haven't seen the issues, that Marvel put out, you can get them there. If you haven't had if you don't know what happened between the end of the series and what's being published right now from Dynamite, this is where you get it. This is where you get all of Gargoyles that happened.
right.
Like everything you
And
missed, you get it there.
so the Marvel stuff is really cool. Drawn by people like Amanda Connor, some of her earliest work, written by some incredible writers like Marty Pasco, among others. Fun stories. I was going to take over writing the Marvel books, and then the series got canceled, so that didn't happen. But they're a lot of fun, and they came out at the same time that the TV show was coming out in 94, 95, 96. And so that's fun. Then we've got 2 SLG volumes. So the first volume collects the 12-issue series Clan Building, which was previously collected in 2 digest-sized trades. So the other thing is that this is the first time, particularly for the last 4 issues, which never were printed individually, this is the first time you can get these issues at full size. And there's 3 ways to get them. For each of these 3 volumes, Marvel, SLG Gargoyles, and SLG Bad Guys, which I'll talk about in a second, you can get them as trade paperbacks, which are relatively, I think, pretty reasonably priced. You can get them at hardcovers, which is, pricier, but not too bad. And then you can get these special edition hardcovers, which I'll admit are expensive. But, if you've got that and it works for you, great. But again, my point isn't spend the most money. My point is demonstrate that you're a fan by getting something. And that's what's really key for us. The total is dollars. That's not the big issue. We've already funded. It's the quantity of backers. 1,726 backers, which is what it is at this moment, is great. But that's not the kind of number that's going to knock Disney's socks off. We really want to see way, way more backers on this thing so that we can prove to Disney that this isn't just a little cult property. This is a big deal property. And so that's really what I'm asking for. So you've got 12 issues of SLG Gargoyles, all written by me. These are some great stories that introduce Nash, that feature Macbeth, introduce Stagheart. If you've been wondering who is it that Lex has been talking to over his computer in the Dynamite comics, well, you can meet that character in the SLG Gargoyles comics. And then the 3rd volume is Gargoyles Bad Guys, which Karine drew 5 out of the 6 issues, and the one that she didn't draw was drawn by the amazing Christopher Jones. The covers are by the original Gargoyles artist, Greg Guler. This is all some really good stuff. And as Karine said earlier, and Greg said, it's been out of print. I mean, the Marvel stuff for nearly 30 years and the SLG stuff for over 10. And again, the only way to get it is to search out a back issue somewhere or to go on eBay and spend a ridiculous quantity of money, way more than you'd need to spend to get all this stuff on the Kickstarter. So I know that I'm doing the heavy sell here. I know it, the hard sell. I know that, and I'm embarrassed by it, I swear to God. But again, it's not about how much you spend. It's just about you participating. We really need the fans to participate. We've got 19 days to go as we record this. By the time you hear this, there'll be even fewer. We need every Gargoyles fan to participate. And what that also means is we need your help spreading the word about this. It's great if you've already participated, if you're already a backer, we appreciate that, but help us out, spread the word. One of the big problems that we're having right now, unfortunately, is that I have a lot of followers on my Twitter account, which unfortunately was hacked right before this Kickstarter launched. And although I am trying really hard to get Twitter to give me control of that Twitter account again, that has not been achieved yet. X is incrementally getting it back for me, but it hasn't happened yet. So I can't reach most of my followers. So that means more than ever before, I need help from the Gargoyles fans to help us spread the word about this, so that everyone who's ever sort of been curious about these old books, again, the 2 SLG volumes are absolutely in continuity with both the first 2 seasons of the TV show and all the Dynamite comics that we've done recently over the last year plus. That's why this hard sell. I just need help, not only in terms of how many backers, but literally in terms of people helping us spread the word about this. Don't assume that everybody who loves Gargoyles has heard this podcast. We want them all to hear this podcast, by the way. So spread the word about the podcast too. But
Yes.
But really, we are in a very short window to demonstrate to Disney that this is not just a tiny niche property. And that means we need way more than 1,700 backers. I know I'm just beating a dead horse repeating myself, but I cannot emphasize this enough. That's what we need. Get whatever you want, but please join the crowd and help us back this thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've read the books before, and I'm going to be getting the Kickstarter. So there you go.
They're good.
I've drawn one
By
of
the
the
way,
books, and
I'm back. I'm one of the backers. I get
yes,
all of
so am
it
I.
anyway. I have them.
I
But-
have it all too.
But I am backing. I'm backing this. I'm buying stuff on the Kickstarter because, again, we need numbers. We need people. We need as many
Yeah.
numbers up there as possible.
But I mean, even if you already own the books, just the idea of having the full size,
size.
instead of just
Yeah.
the digital, the digest size is already enough to make a difference.
And the Marvel
You know,
stuff was
in-
never
in one of my-
collected. Never
Pardon me?
collected. The Marvel stuff was never collected.
That's
It's not
very
only
true.
that it's been out of print for 30 years, those never were collected. And again, a lot of great work by a lot of great people. And I recommend reading this stuff.
Yeah.
And the SLG stuff, I think, is essential. Both Gargoyles and Bad Guys, I think, is essential for any Gargoyles fan, because that is canon stories. And the stuff I'm doing in the Dynamite titles builds off of not just the first 2 seasons of the TV series, but also these 18 issues, 12 Gargoyles, 6 Bad Guys of the SLG era. I absolutely use stuff from both those eras in the Dynamite stuff. So stop me before I repeat myself again.
Well then I do have a question here to ask. You mentioned, and this could also sweeten the pot for some people, on the video that's posted on Kickstarter, there was a meticulous restoration done.
Restoration.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm not even 100% sure what that means. I just know that they made sure that we are getting really crisp, beautiful images from all 3 volumes, Marvel, SLG Gargoyles, and SLG Bad Guys. That, you know, this should, when you get the stuff, it's not going to look fuzzy, and it, you know, it's going to be fairly pristine. So that also should be incentive.
I think
If nothing
so.
else, printing it at full size as opposed to little trade size makes that big difference. So
Yeah.
full resolution.
I'm
Right.
glad. And like you said, chip in, get yourself a copy, get the copies that work for you. And hey, if you want to get that big giant deluxe box, more power to you.
Sure.
can
All
buy
right.
me one while you're at it.
If you like this podcast
Because
and you have
it's
a lot of
amazing.
if you love this
But-
podcast and you have a lot of money and you want to say thank you to Jennifer and I for this, buy us copies of those gigantic that box. All right. Jennifer, do you have any further thoughts on the Kickstarter?
I'm just super excited about it.
Corinne.
I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. There's original art you can get from Amanda Connor,
Yeah, that's cool.
from Jay Lee, from Ken Hauser. There's a lot of options here, prints, etc. There's bound to be something here on this Kickstarter to interest you. So go for it.
Oh, one thing to mention, and there's still copies of this recording available. Amanda Connor, the commission for her reduced from $1,700 to $500. So go get it. She's a fantastic artist, one of the top premier artists from Marvel and DC, and she's going to draw gargoyles for you at a reasonable price. Go get it.
You know,
All
I
right.
met Amanda Connor at a Comic-Con once, and I said, "Hey, I first learned of you through your art on gargoyles. Now I'm drawing gargoyles." She said, "Oh, that's fantastic." So that was the
Nice.
total of our
That's cool.
interaction.
And that was it. Walk by. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I met Amanda Connor for the first time at Comic-Con last year, 2023 Comic-Con, and we were on a Dynamite Comics panel, and you know, she was actually she's really fond of gargoyles. She's really grateful to gargoyles because that was really her breakthrough series. You know, she'd go on to do Harley and all sorts of terrific things, but she said to me, she told me this, that, you know, that gargoyles was the thing that sort of was her breakthrough project that
Yeah.
got her enough attention to become who
think
she is.
Before, or maybe even around the same time, she was doing Barbie, was the comic that she was drawing.
Hmm.
But I mean, and that's like such a different atmosphere. And
It is, but you know, being a woman in comics and animation and all that, seeing another woman doing a property I loved, and that's not really something that you usually see women attached to, was really, really awesome to me. And it was kind of like that additional, yeah, I can get there too type of idea. So
inspirational.
yeah, I'm just
It's
happy.
doable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she was lovely. We had a very, very short chat because we were both like doing our own thing on
Yeah.
in our own place at the Comic-Con, but I just wanted to tell her how much I liked her art, and I was so happy that she was on Gargoyles and that I'm on Gargoyles now, and she was happy for me, and that was fun.
That's a cool opportunity. Very cool.
All right.
All right. All right. Are there any, before we move on, are there any further thoughts on the Kickstarter?
I think it's great that they're doing it. It's gonna be nice to see these again.
Yeah.
I have them back home in San Antonio, but I've not read them in a while.
A long while.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I'm really
I
excited.
reread them all the time because they're
Relevant to what you're
Fodder.
doing now.
Yeah.
Kind of have to.
I do. Constantly.
I really like in my dreams of, if I have any free time at some point and the opportunity presents itself, I would love to revisit Bad Guys. I would love to go back and draw Bad Guys again.
Bad Guys was fun.
It was Dynamite. I hope you're listening.
Because you know they're you get into a property and they kind of become your adopted kids, and you want to keep working with them, and so yeah, I'm very fond of those characters.
Yeah, I'd like to work on it again too. Like working on.
I'd like to read them more. See,
working
it
on
all works out.
Gargoyles-
It would all work out so
We
good.
all want more.
I've been working in comics for 26 years and working on Gargoyles for that 7 or 8 months I was doing it. It's still one of the highlights of my career. I would love to do it more, do it again. So,
And also to our listeners out there, he was a fan. He began as a fan. He designed Brooklyn's Mate Katana.
That's very true.
and Nashville and Foo Dog and a couple of random Dark Ages characters that were in for like a panel.
Well, we'll talk about that in a bit. So once again, go out there, pledge, make your voice heard, show your interest in the property, and get yourself some really cool comics that have been out of print for a very long time. All right, so let's move on. We're going to give our first impressions of the comics of the recent Dynamite releases, Gargoyles issue 11 and then Dark Ages issue 5. And since there's a few of us, I think we'll give one first impression each on each of these books. So we're going to start with Gargoyles 11, pretty big issue. And Jennifer, do you have any first impressions on Gargoyles issue 11?
You know what I like the best about it? Elisa and Matt getting in trouble. Chavez just reaming them was my favorite part.
Consequences.
Matt opens his mouth and just stepped right in it. But that was good. Like, follow through. Like, how there's a lot of explaining she has to do.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not a slap on the wrist, but well, I guess we'll find out in the next issue. We'll see what happens. But no, that was a great scene. And to expand upon that, I just love how I had a feeling you were involved with this Bluestone when he opens his mouth, and we'll see how that goes. We know she's still a cop in Halloween special, so we'll see what happens. And Karine, do you have any thoughts on Gargoyles issue 11?
I liked the whole Nash going. I haven't seen the connection between my dad and his brothers. I've not seen that. And that whole rescue mission, you can see the maturity of Brooklyn, who's seen a lot of shit. And he knows, like, he is prepared for this plan. And the other two that come in and they work together, and you get that satisfied look in Nash's face. There it is.
This is what he was waiting for.
It's been about. This was worth it. So that little satisfaction from Nash at the end, I think we all felt it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Robby, what about you?
I really liked the Renard subplot.
Yeah.
Especially the ending, which actually really threw me for a loop, because it was clear for a while that obviously he's going to die and there's going to be repercussions from that. I did not expect him to give Goliath some of his money.
I don't think Goliath was expecting that either.
No. So it's like, okay, where's this going? I have no idea. Like, everything else I can sort of, okay, I know where this might happen to be, what's going to happen with this. It's like, okay, beat the bad guys, but Goliath has money. What?
He's comfortably well off.
It's not Thaylog money, but
That was a great line. That was a great line.
That being said, if he's still one of the richest people in Manhattan, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
I mean, and considering I doubt that court case is going to be the end of everything and all the legal challenges we're going to face, because stuff like this always gets challenged. That's quite good for him and for his kind. I mean, he's gonna be needing that moving forward, I think. And no, that was great. And also to establish that, I mean, we knew he was gonna pass away, but I wasn't expecting Renard's death to hit me as hard as it did. Personally, I mean, that was just
Anastasia like broke my heart.
yeah.
I mean, this character has been with us even only in a handful of episodes for about 30 years, but it still slayed me, that death. And also, I love how he, even though she said it was okay, he addressed Fox by her preferred name.
Yeah.
If Renard can do it, you can. Learn from Renard. And and one of my impressions, you got to the deeper one, so I'll just give a silly one. This is where my mind went. I love when they're critiquing the masks all the gangsters are wearing, and Broadway's like, "Oh, if you think that's bad, check out this Angela mask." And suddenly I'm thinking, because these gangsters, they're so macho. The toxic masculinity among Italian American gangsters is so awful. I have a feeling that when Dino was handing out the masks, it was like that scene in Reservoir Dogs and Mr. Pink.
Why do I got to be the purple one?
Why do I have to be the girl?
Shut up and put on the mask.
I hope he looks like Steve Buscemi under there, whoever that guy was. All right, that's my first impression. Greg, thank you for that one. That was a fun one, and we look forward to issue 12, which ties up here in Manhattan.
Is it just me, or did this issue feel very full? Like a lot of stuff happened in it.
Yeah. I literally went back and like recounted pages.
Yeah. I love that
so much going on right now.
There's so much going on. There's so much story in those pages. It's a fantastic experience reading it. You know, there are so many comics where you read them and like, okay, you're at the end and barely a plot point advanced in the story.
It takes 3 minutes to get through and you're done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, there's meat to the story, and that's great.
Love it.
And that's kind of the history with the whole property from day one, which was we tried really hard, Frank and Michael and Gary and Carrie and Bryn and I, Bob, Dennis, everybody, to just stuff as much into every episode, every issue as we could. You know, this is a dense show. You know, it's rich with detail. It's rich with everything from Easter eggs to feeds for later. Payoffs that at this point are 30 years old. Waiting 30 years for that joke to pay off. Okay, here it is. I absolutely love the way George draws the gangsters in those masks. It just makes me so happy. I can't even tell you. But as usual, the stuff that really knocks me out are just, you know, the acting that George puts into this. Like you said, Anastasia's face at the end there, Nash's face, and Halcyon has a great smile. You know, when Fox says, "Okay, good, I'm getting the company, but this isn't the way I wanted to get it," you know, he's like, "Don't I know it?" And just that smile, that little grin before he starts to cough again. I just love, and I love Goliath's expression when he's told that he's been left all this money. It's like, you know, I don't want that. No, you know. And
what? No.
Thanatos's, you know, grin. It's just, you know, even that little scene where Halcyon's trying to tease Vogel and Vogel just doesn't get it. I don't understand.
But one of the things I love about George's art is like it's never static. It never feels stiff or static. It always feels like it's in motion, and I really love that. Yeah.
So it's you know, really so much praise for George here. I've seen only a few pages of 12 so far, but he's I'm told pretty far along on it. And you know, I'm really excited for everyone to get to see the conclusion. George's stuff is going to be great. Hopefully Greg Weisman stuck the landing on the last issue.
I don't know about that guy. George, yeah, I don't know about
George.
Greg.
George, we all feel confident about. Greg, not so much. But yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to see the last issue of and of Dark Ages too as well, but we haven't talked about 5 yet. But it's pretty. There's been so much fun working with George on these 12 issues, and I'm just thrilled with how they've turned out.
It's good stuff.
With the Renard plotline, it was the top panel on every page for a while. It was a static camera shot the whole time, which I really liked, and you could see the passing of time, passing of day. Was that in the script, or was that his art choice?
The top panel thing was in the script. That is, do the strip across every page while the fight was going on. That was scripted, but his decision to keep it at that distance across all those, that was George.
That was a really good choice on his part. It made it easier to tell that the scene was separate and consistent, and the passing of the time of day. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on 11 before we dive into the Dark Ages? All right.
It's a little slow, but I still appreciate him. He's a sweet boy. Not so quick.
Yes. All right. So now let's talk about Dark Ages. This was a pretty meaty one with a really big reveal. And Jennifer, do you have any first impressions of Dark Ages issue 5?
What would my first impression be? Get in, say it for us.
There's a motherfucking dragon in Gargoyles.
There's a motherfucking dragon in Gargoyles. Talking to his little cousins.
Dragons have stone sleep, just like the gargoyles.
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing to find out.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
they're all Gargates, or as he would say, stone flesh.
And his name is Wyvern.
Yeah.
I was expecting Frank or something. Joe. Of course his name is Wyvern.
He wasn't actually a wyvern.
Nope, he was not. He was a full-on dragon.
Full-on dragon, not a wyvern.
All things are true, few are accurate.
It's especially true when Weisman's your writer, so. But he tries. He really tries.
But before we dive a little bit more into that, it's just between this and 11, I feel like we're almost in completely uncharted territory. You used to say you were afraid you revealed too much, but we're seeing how little you did. And the funny thing about that dragon and how nobody ever guessed this, he was in the Dark Ages pitch cards, which used to show at every gathering, and none of us ever registered that.
I know.
It's a metaphorical dragon or something.
Honestly, you know what I loved was Desdemona's line about she feels something new, but no, not new, something very, very old. I loved that moment. I love her anyway, and I just loved that whole like interaction there that was going on.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see who did feel the presence, or whatever you call it, of the dragon. It was her. It wasn't Sacrifice and the Archmage, Peridor and Fleur, among others. Alisand. I mean, well, not Alisand. Antiope. So now I'm wondering what's up with her. And Karine, do you have any first impressions of Dark Ages issue 5?
Well, I did give you my first impression, which was exactly the same.
You have a second impression.
Jennifer's first impression.
I think it was. I mean, it's hard for that not to be the first the thing you think.
Yes. I liked the kids. They're really acting like kids. They're really, They put their foot in their mouth just like kids. All their mistakes are kids' mistakes. The trouble they get in, the dragon waking
the curiosity,
up, the dragon getting pissed off because there's castle. The fuck?
Humans? Castle? They just kept ramping up.
And it's just like, wait a second, you can't do that because the humans know where we are in their castle, and everybody in the castle knows castle.
And after they just told them that nobody even knows you're here and everything, yeah, but they know where we are, so
it's like, shut up. So yes, I very much enjoyed the trio,
the chaos that the
trouble and the chaos.
Kids. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Robby, do you have any third impressions?
Yeah, I didn't care for the dragon so much. Whatever. Yeah. Dragons. There was other stuff in the issue, but what can you do? It's like 30 years and there's a dragon. That's just gonna overwhelm everything else.
Yes.
I liked that there were 2-page spreads to really show off how sizable it is, how big it was.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we have scenes of Demona learning how to read. That's nice with that.
That was good.
And the story she's being,
and the story that she's
the frog and the scorpion,
the stuff she's actually reading.
Yeah, like,
the frog and the scorpion. How fitting is that?
Spelling the cat. Like just and the ghost cage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Some good stuff. This is some good stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a motherfucking dragon. So
my first, second, and third impressions were all hit, so I really have nothing to add because, again, like we also had the
and I loved the whole by the dragon. It's a dragon.
Motherfucking dragons tend to suck up all the oxygen, which is probably where their fire comes from. So
I love the look on Brooklyn's face when he sees the dragon. He just has this wide-eyed expression, just straight at the camera, just like. Like I'm looking at the issue right now. It's like, oh yeah, that's the face.
Yeah,
I'm
just thinking of just how universe. Wow, this blows everything up what we knew or what we thought we knew. I mean, another sapient species. I mean, we know they have gargoyles, humans, Oberon's children. We haven't talked about in the podcast yet, but New Olympians who are kind of a hybrid species. But even though Gargates, this is kind of something else. Is this a fourth race? I mean, Greg, is this that lost race you've hinted at in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
That was subtle. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right, that is great to know, and I love that they're related to gargoyles who we thought were the first race, but now maybe are the second. We'll see. I mean, hopefully we'll learn more. And good Lord, don't tell Severius about this thing.
Now the question I have is the dragon still around and sleeping in stone somewhere and will wake up?
And are there others?
Are there others?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what Demona's going in there to get.
Me too. Are there any other impressions of the motherfucking dragon?
He seems upset.
It's one of those where like it ended and I was like, oh, how are they gonna get through this? How are they going to unfuck themselves at this point?
With powers of negotiation.
That was the top on my list. I knew it had to be a negotiation.
Well, that worked well. That worked well with Smaug. I'm kidding, different dragon. Although I did hear Richard Boone's voice from the old Hobbit cartoon when I was reading his dialogue.
Oh my gosh.
One from 1977.
A million years. Mazillions.
All right. Well, Greg, do you have any thoughts you want to share about this issue before we move on to the state of the franchise address?
I mean, as usual, I just want to praise Drew's work. The dragon, knocks me out. As you said, those double page spreads are just, fantastic. I'm also, though, I was really so pleased with page 1, which is just Mentor and Malcolm standing there,
snarking at everybody.
It's gonna take 10 years to build this castle.
And then, right, and then Malcolm sort of whispering to him, it takes about 10 years to build a castle. And
well, don't tell them, that'll take 20.
Yeah. So I just thought their rapport, which is at ease now, is great. I love the relationship that's building between Robby and Goliath, and as you mentioned, I just love the interaction of the 5 kids. What I mean is, it's easy for me to say since I wrote it, but what I mean is how Drew that, the stuff with Brooklyn and Broadway inadvertently knocking over the hamster wheel, and rushing off and going, "Oh, fly, yes, let's fly far away from here. Let's go now."
That flying away page is really nice too.
Yeah,
Yes.
We had the page. Was it last issue? I can't remember. Or 2 issues ago, where she was dreaming of flying, and now she gets something like that. I really love the page where when they land, she hugs Antiope, and Broadway's like,
What does she do?
We did the heavy lifting here. I again, it's just feel really blessed by both Drew and George on these 2 books, and obviously they're nailing the action and the sense of movement. All that stuff is fun, but I also just get really tickled by the quieter moments, the small things, because I find often in reading comics that that those moments sometimes get kind of lost in the art, and so I kind of really appreciate when the acting is there.
Like when Lex says, "You'd eat us," and Broadway's like got one eye twitching. It's just like, like the little things like that, the little details like that make me so happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I find it interesting that Lex knew how to read before Angel and even Goliath.
Well, he taught himself, and
hey, he's a savant.
But you see it at the beginning when he's looking at the hamster wheel. He goes, "Why aren't we using this? It would make things a lot, it would be more efficient."
It's spinning, it's going.
It's the whole, "Oh no, the humans use this because they don't have the muscles we do." And Lex is like, "Yeah, muscles schmuscles. Like this
we could
would
be
make
doing it faster."
Yeah. Technology's
right.
better.
He's right. Don't be Luddites. All right. Before we move on, anything else about Dark Ages issue 5 and the motherfucking dragon?
I like the word ominousor.
Ominousor. Very good. Well used word there.
You have to assume it's all translated from medieval Scottish Gaelic.
True.
Yes.
But
what is the medieval Scottish Gaelic word for ominousor?
I don't know. I tried looking that up on Google Translate.
They
Didn't have it. Yeah, it didn't come up.
Nice. All right. Now
I feel like we're about to find out a lot about all these players that have been lined up in front of us. About to find out some good stuff.
Yeah.
So
One more issue. One more issue of Dark Ages. Looking forward to it, but I'm really sad to be taking a break from it. Well, hey, we'll see what comes after. And speaking of, it's we're as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is our first show of 2024. This year's the big 30th anniversary, and who would have thought when we started this podcast back in 2021 that
we started in 2020.
Late 2021. We did that we would be where we are right now. So let's talk about so let's let Mr. Creator Man here, Mr. Weisman, we're going to turn the floor over to him so he can do his state of the franchise address.
Right, which you told me I was doing just before we started, so it's not like I've got anything prepared. Like I was prepared to talk about the Kickstarter.
It's in the emails.
So state of the franchise. I mean, look, in a lot of ways, we're in way better shape than we've ever been since 1996. We've got 11 issues of Gargoyles out, 5 issues of Dark Ages, plus the Halloween special. We've got issue 12, which will wrap up here in Manhattan, that 12-issue arc. We've got of Gargoyles coming out. We've got issue 6 of Dark Ages, which will wrap up the Alliance Dark Ages mini-series coming out. And then those will be followed by Gargoyles Quest, which is a 5-issue mini-series that features Demona looking for the 3 new keys to power, and our regular cast hoping she doesn't get them. And there's more to come after that, which I can't talk about yet, but there is more to come. We've got toys from NECA, a line so extensive it's almost miraculous to me, and all sorts of other bits of merchandise. I don't even know what to call it, the reboot of the old Sega video game. And all this is great. And again, we've got this Kickstarter so that we're also starting to get some of the old material out. The show is on Disney Plus. You can watch that, 3 seasons of it. You can participate in the Kickstarter. And then the last thing that I just want to mention once again, and if you're a regular listener, you've heard me talk about this before, but it bears repeating. July 4th weekend this year, 30th anniversary of Gargoyles at Convergence in Minneapolis. I'm going to be there. Keith David's going to be there. Karine is going to be there. Jennifer's going to be there. Greg's going to be there. Robby, you going to be there?
I have no idea yet.
He doesn't know yet. Well,
my work keeps him busy.
Get back to us in the next 5 minutes. But Tom Adcock's the voice of Lexington, Keith David, the voice of Goliath, Zara Fuzzle will be there, the voice of Sherry, and other people too, because it's not a Gargoyles convention. There's a lot of stuff going on at Convergence, so there are a lot of guests who are going to be there, actors, authors, etc. Many who have nothing to do with Gargoyles, but at the same time, it's a really great convention. I've been there many times. It's really well run. It's a lot of fun. It's, for me, the perfect size. It's not so tiny that, nothing's going on. There's nothing to do. There's plenty to do. There's a lot going on. You'll have multiple panels to choose from any minute that you're there. But it's not so huge that, like Comic-Con, that you get lost in it, or that's overwhelming. It's still friendly and everything like that. I really love this con, and this was the place I chose to have our 30th anniversary celebration. We'll be doing a radio play. I don't know what it is yet. Odds are I won't know till 3 days before the con. That's typical. But we'll be doing a radio play. We'll have multiple Gargoyles panels. We'll have panels on Spider-Man. We'll have panels on Young Justice. I'm doing a new title for Marvel, The Spectacular Spider-Man, which launches in March. That features both Peter Parker and Miles Morales. So we'll have a panel on that and on the original Spectacular Spider-Man TV show. We'll have a Young Justice panel, and we'll have a bunch of Gargoyles stuff. But if you're a Gargoyles fan and you can possibly make it, I can't recommend this enough. This is going to be a big party for Gargoyles fans, new and old. And and there'll be more Gargoyles guests too. I can't say who they are yet because it's not signed on the dotted line yet, but there are going to be more Gargoyles guests at this convention. And but we're off to a great start just with Keith and Tom, just for starters. There's no one who's more fun at a convention than Tom Hancock Hernandez. Like no one. And Keith David is great, and we're gonna have a really good time. So I recommend that. Otherwise, again, just let your voice be heard. Be part of the fandom, be part of the Kickstarter, buy the comics, please God, buy the comics, and join the party, because we're having a really good time. We've got a lot of things planned for the 30th anniversary year, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, and we've got this podcast, which is lovely.
It is. We're kicking off our 2024 year. We're about to enter the world tour. We still need to record our Shadows of the Past episode. We should get on that.
We should get on that. Yes, we should.
And no, I'm really looking forward to it. I love this property. Obviously. No, I hate this property. I've been keeping it a secret all these years. I really hate it. Could you imagine? I'm kidding. No, I love it. And I'm looking forward. It just means a lot to me. And Jennifer, you have any thoughts you want to share about what you're looking forward to this year?
There's a lot going on already, and I just got here. So yeah, it's a lot going on. I'm excited. I'm really excited. And hopefully we'll get to see Robby and Karine joining us again later.
I would love to. I always love being in these podcasts. It's a lot of fun to chat with you guys, and
feels like old times.
It does. We definitely want to, when we get to the comics, we definitely want to chat with you more directly about those, but maybe we'll see about having you both on at some point even before that.
Awesome.
I'm up for it.
All right.
All right. We want to say good night, and also thank you to our listeners. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and join us for 2024. We're about to hit the world tour, and like Greg said, keep buying those comics, keep buying the merchandise, vote with your wallet, show Disney that you love this property. To our guests, Karine, Robby, Greg Weisman, thank you for coming on, and Jennifer, thank you for putting up with me as a mediocre co-host, and I do my best, and thank you for everything you do.
This wouldn't happen without Greg, because I'm lazy. So
yeah, but we also know because of that one episode that it sucks without you. So
all right, kids.
All right. Have a good night. And to our listeners, thank you. And 2024 30th anniversary, hurrah.
Hurrah!
This has been Night Watch. Sleep well.
Thank you for listening to Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast, powered by the Spidey Dude Radio Network, located at spidey-dude.com. If you like this show, then please listen to Spectacular Radio, based on the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series, which features some familiar voices. You can also find these great podcasts: Clone Saga Chronicles, Make Mine Mayday, Amazing Spider-Man Classics, the Sal Buscema Podcast, and Books of X. All of this and more on the Spidey Dude Radio Network. And please follow us on Twitter at From Eyrie. That's From EYRIE. And join us on Patreon at patreon.com/SpideyDude Network for more exclusive content. Thank you.
Well, thief, I smell you, feel your air, and I hear your breath. Come along. Help yourself, there's plenty and to spare.